right, cool. All right, so yeah, I just said this, but I'll say it now for the recording. It is super excited that you said that you would let me interview. That's really cool. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking to interview me. I'm flattered.
Oh, it's cool. No, it's like this. Yeah, I feel like such a geeky fan right now. So I'm gonna calm myself down. I've got a heater under my desk, which is making me redder than usual. And with my ginger face, it's usually quite red anyway.
Yeah, I'm naturally a ginger as well, and so I go quite red quite easy. There's a foundation helps me, but yeah.
I had a feeling you might be a secret ginger, but I didn't say it.
Yeah, I'm not fully ginger. My hair grows in dark, but there's a lot of red in it, and so I've got. I joke in the summer. I call myself I've got ginger skin because my freckles come out. I go pink in about 3 seconds flat. Yeah, I'm a ginge. My dad's a ginge. My nephews are very much a carrot top ginge. But we're living a dream.
We live. Yeah. I'm always burnt. I burn, then I peel, go white again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like post box or see-through.
Yes.
These are my two tones.
Cool. So I was going to introduce you, but I think I'd do a really crappy job. So do you want to just give a quick
I'm curious. I think you should do it.
No, I can't do it. I will mess it up. God, you do it.
Okay. So hi everybody, I'm Sarah Poynton-Ryan. I run a property sourcing company. I have a development company like renovations. I have a lettings business. I basically work in all things property. Because of my businesses, I then launched a training company. And so I now also have a company that helps other property entrepreneurs to scale their businesses. And Shona is one of my clients. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I was actually going to say to you that because you would call me your client. I was like, what do I call you? You're like my mentor. Yeah, my mentor. That sounds so like that. The mentor.
Just don't call me a guru ever. That's
Oh, no.
Word in the world. Mentor, general, counsel, whatever.
Call themselves a guru as well. I was like, oh my God, you're so up yourself.
Bad.
So I think the reason this came about is because I sent out a survey about motivated sellers, and obviously you've spoken to loads of motivated sellers. So for the record, because for some people that watch this may know nothing about property at all, do you want to just tell people what a motivated seller is?
Yeah, so a motivated seller it's really a phrase that we use in our industry to describe somebody that is in need of selling their property outside of the traditional reasons. So, most people will understand the buying and selling of houses process, where you decide that the house you're in is either too big or too small, or it isn't meeting your needs, and you decide to buy somewhere new. And most of the time what happens is you wait until you've sold your house, and then you release the money and you move on, and you just wait for the chain. And that's like the traditional retail market of property. What a lot of people don't really know is that there is kind of an underlayer to that, which is our industry. It's the more creative ways of buying and selling property. And a motivated seller is somebody who needs to sell outside of the normal reason. So somebody who's maybe in severe debt, threatening with repossession, things like that, they actually need to sell it, and they need to sell it by a certain date. Otherwise they lose everything. It could be that a family member's going into care and they need to be able to pay those bills, and so they need to sell by a certain day, and they need to guarantee that it will happen on a certain day. So a motivated seller is somebody who is driven to actually sell it at a certain point because of a reason that directly and tangibly impacts their life in quite a substantial way if it doesn't happen. So the reason why motivated sellers are kind of a good client base for us is that because of the way we buy properties, we are able to fulfill that need. And so that's why they tend to be a really good audience for us.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So how do you find your motivated sellers?
So there's loads of different ways. There's lots and lots and lots of different ways. I think, so I've been running this business for 5 years. So 5 years, 2 and a bit weeks ago. So we're into our 6th year now, which is amazing. And we've survived, which is also awesome. And when we first started the company, it was me in my garage with my 2 cats, and I basically just hit Gumtree, and I would look for, I started with rent to rent as a strategy, and I moved into purchases. So in my first kind of 6 months, I didn't really look at any sellers. I was only ever looking at motivated landlords. But ultimately, they hang out very similarly in the same places. So we looked a lot at Gumtree, and we looked a lot at like online platforms like the Open Rents, the UPads, those sorts of places. But what I also did, obviously pre-COVID, I did a lot of networking, and I got out and I met as many people as I could. So I went to like networking dinners and your 4Ns and your BNIs and all of these sorts of things. Now for me, I found more clients, like motivated seller clients or landlord clients, in non-property events than I did in property events, because property events are actually just full of your competitors. Yeah, people like us in the same room learning about property. Whereas when I took myself to like non-property networking events that were about business, women in business, these sorts of things, actually they were like my potential customers. And so by putting myself in a room with my potential customers, I tended to find, I'm not sure that's good English, but I found more of my clients there. I think now, as the business has evolved, we do a combination of different things. So we still use the platforms that we've always used. But over time, as budgets have increased and our knowledge of our client base and the data and things that sit behind it, we do ads now, Facebook ads, Instagram. We do a lot of audience building. We do a lot of different things. And I don't know who it was that said this quote, but there's quite a famous quote that says, 50% of your marketing will work and 50% of your marketing won't work. You'll just never know which 50% it is. And so you have to do it all. And ultimately that is true.
But you really monitor your KPIs though, so I bet you do know.
Well, we know the lead source when it gets to us.
Okay.
But I think what's really important to understand is that in the way that we as consumers buy now has completely changed. So we don't make a buying decision the first time we contact a company. Does that make sense? So like the first time you came across me, you'll have heard of me at least a few times before that. And then obviously you did the challenge. So you and I worked together solidly for 5 days straight, where I was talking to you every single day. And you made a decision to work with me off the back of a long period of being exposed to me, what we do, our values, our ethics, the business that we run.
Yeah.
So with a lead source, at the point they go into the database, they could click, well, I saw you on Facebook, but it might not have been the first post that got them to buy. It might actually have been something they saw on we do things like notice boards and stuff like that. That might have just been the thing that triggered them to remember to message me now. And so it's really difficult to 100% define in our industry. When you're selling digital products, sometimes it's a bit easier, but we don't sell digital products. We sell a service that's in the real world. So sometimes we don't know the source. We know a lot of it, but we don't know it exactly. So you have to do everything.
What would you say was the top way that you find motivated sellers?
It depends on budgets. So if you're like me right at the beginning, when I had zero budget and I really had no money at all, then just hitting the phones, ringing agents, ringing. People say to me all the time, literally someone said to me yesterday, oh, there's no deals when you ring agents. And it's just nonsense. It just isn't true. But if you only ring an agent once, of course they're not going to give you a deal. They're just not. If you ring an agent every single week for 52 weeks over the course of a year, you can guarantee that agent's going to have passed you some deals through that time because you'll have built a relationship up. And so if you've got no money, which a lot of people getting into property do it because they want to try and create freedom for themselves or clear debt or whatever it is, and that's amazing. You don't then need to spend millions of pounds or thousands of pounds on leaflets and adverts and all that sort of stuff, because if you haven't got the money, don't spend it. You don't need to. Get out and meet as many people as you can, tell everybody what you do, and hit the phones. If you've got some money, if you've got budget, then put some money behind advertising effectively. You can advertise quite cheaply on places like Gumtree. I know you've been doing some of that. There's some classified newspapers, like classified ads. You can put in ads at the back of the paper really, really cheaply. And then you can go into like Facebook ads if you've got the time and the inclination to, or somebody you can pay to do it for you. You know, we generally pay about £90 a lead for like a motivated seller / landlord lead. So, you know, £90 a lead is a lot of money, and you know, you need to be able to close them out. So I wouldn't say jump to that straight away. You can work your way up to that, but you know, it took us 4 years to get to a point where we were happy to pay £90 a lead, because when I pay £90 a lead, I know I'm going to make upwards of like £5,000 on it, and so for me that works.
Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned about talking to agents. Like, that is always the beginning of people trying to get into this business, and it's always so super scary. Like, I hate doing it now. I still don't do it as much as I should, and I know you would tell me off for that. So
secret. I'm not sure if this is a secret. I might have told you this already. It took me 9 months to call my first agent.
No, I didn't know that. See, now I don't feel that bad.
9 months. I stuck to Gumtree for 9 months because I was terrified of agents.
Yeah.
I thought they'd know more than me. I thought they'd tell me to. Am I allowed to swear on here?
You can. Not as much as you normally do, but yeah.
Hard not to swear because I'm not sure where this is going to end up, so I won't swear. I really thought that agents would tell me to like go away, and I really thought that they would see right through me at the beginning, because I didn't know what I was talking about. Like, I was winging it, like everybody else is winging it at the beginning of starting a company. You know, there's no, that, you know, you have to start to learn how to do this. You can't learn it and then do it. It just doesn't work like that. You can't learn it until you're actually physically in the trenches, actually doing it. My cat's come to say hello. And she does it every time I'm on a Zoom call. But I think the important thing with this is that whilst it took me 9 months, I kind of wish I'd got there sooner, because as soon as I was brave enough to pick up the phone, I realised that actually agents just want to do their job. And their job is to sell houses or rent houses, and they don't earn their money until they do those things. So if you come up with a way that you can help them rent houses faster and sell houses faster, and you can deliver and communicate it effectively, then why wouldn't they choose to work with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing is, I mean, I don't really want to do rent to rent. I want to do flips or PRRs. And obviously you're making super low offers, and it feels so embarrassing. You know it does, because you know the majority of people are just going to laugh at it. And that's okay, because I know that eventually it will work. Is it literally just about keep going in? Are there any magic words that really help sway the deal? Is there a time of year that works really well? Like any of that?
Can you hear that alarm going off? Hold on.
I can now that you mentioned it. I couldn't before. So I'm gonna go.
Let me go turn it on. Basically, I've got a robot that hoovers my floors for me, and it's that.
Yeah, the round one.
Sorry, because my dog's so furry and so like ridiculous. And my dog's white and my floors are black. So I have a little robot that goes around and hoovers, and then I like properly hoover. It just keeps on top of my floors.
Is it like round and quite thin?
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend had one, but she didn't think it was that good. Is yours quite good?
Oh, it's amazing. Like, it means that I don't have to hoover like every single day, twice a day, because I would have to with my dog. She just is ridiculous. What did you ask me? You asked me.
Remember, I'm actually thinking about your cat, and actually that I have a camera now in my house to check when my daughter gets home. And I thought my daughter was home earlier, so I checked the video, but it was my cat playing with the bauble on the Christmas tree. So it was quite entertaining. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I think you asked me about, what did you ask me about?
Like, how do you really get in with the agents apart from just making it over and over again?
So I think repetition and consistency is kind of the underlying premise of everything that I teach and talk about, whether it's my in-house team, whether it's you guys that I'm working with. It's really important to understand that because there's so much noise in the world now, we make a decision to work with someone based on the fact that they are front of mind. If someone is front of mind to you, and you think of them first when something happens, they will always call you first, always. But to be front of mind with anybody, you have to be able to get above the noise. And the best way to get above the noise is to be louder.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to what you said about how you get people like on the challenge and then like you basically see them intent, well, you don't see them, they see you intensely for 5 days. And yeah, so it is just about that. You just have to keep being in their face, right?
Yeah, and I think also you can do that with a degree of class. You don't need to be like horrible, like sales bashing. You don't need to be pushy and aggressive. You don't need to do that. And, you know, people buy from people, you know, we're talking about getting in with an agent. And some people say to me, well, it's not sales because the selling bit comes when you're buying the house. But
I
for
think
them to put the house in front of you in the first place, they have to believe that you can transact, and they have to believe that you're worth doing business with, and they have to believe you've got your funds in line, and they have to believe that, you know, you're not going to make them look like a dick ultimately. And if they are worried that you will not make them look good, they will never put you in front of their client, because not only do they lose their client, but they also don't get paid.
I think that's what's quite scary for like new people to make the phone call. That's what they're fearful of, that somebody will say yes is even scarier than people say no, because then we know, well, we've got to make sure we can follow through. And it's because you can only take each step at a time, you don't know if you can achieve it until you get there. So that's quite
I
scary.
think like one of the things we always do, well, we definitely did right at the beginning, because I didn't have any investors at the beginning. Like I didn't have the database that I've got now. So what we would do is we would put offers out, and we would say we always put offers out on behalf of our client. Like I always been really honest about the fact that it wasn't me buying it, which I think helps in the first instance. Secondly, we would say, once we had the offer agreed in principle, we then need 14 days to do our final checks on everything. And we would tell them that before we gave them an offer. So when the offer arrived and it then reinforced, we need 14 days from the point that you say you're happy to accept it. We need 14 days to get a formal site visit done and go through the process. And basically, when I got yeses, I just used to work my butt off for 14 days to find a buyer for it. And I did.
And did you do all that through social media? It was because you've met people along the way, or you just basically kept picking up the phone, I'm guessing?
I mean, a lot of it was social media. So like to build my investor list, that was all social media, all of it.
Mm.
I've never paid for any advertising for my investor list at all. The adverts that we use is either on the vendor lead generation or landlord lead generation and tenant lead generation. My investors has always been organic. And, you know, we got into a habit of doing things like investor days, and when someone joined my database, I would phone them and say, you've joined the database, thanks very much, what are you looking for? We would categorize them in the database so that when I had a rent-to-rent deal come on or a flip deal come on, I could email them straight away and tag them, send it, and get the inquiries coming in. And I think for me, having that CRM system as early on in the process as I did really helped me. But yeah, investor stuff has always just been organic relationship building, always. I mean, now it's a little bit more automated, but it's still about relationships and nurturing that relationship all the way through.
So when you got your first investor for that first deal that you found,
Yeah,
rent to rent deal that you sold first?
yeah, it was.
Yeah, okay. Oh, is there a difference, by the way, for the type of investors that would take either? Do you find rent to rent investors are more newbies because they're trying to go in with less money?
Sometimes, like, but we had a rule, which was we would never sell an investor their first ever deal.
Ooh.
And the reason for that was because I got let down a couple of times. And so we just said we would never do it. And that is partly where the training company came into it, because then what we said was, I'm happy to train you in rent to rent so that when I sell you a deal, you know what you've got to do. Whereas if we found people that had never even, like, didn't even know what tenancy agreement to sign, or, you know, what rules surrounded HMOs, then I wasn't willing to put my reputation on the line with the landlords and the vendors to say, well, this is our client and we're championing them to manage your house. I couldn't risk our reputation, and so we stopped doing that.
Yeah, I totally feel the same way. I think that's one of the reasons that put me off looking for rent to rents as well, because I don't really know the people that I might take on as investor. And if I've worked so hard for somebody to trust me, I've spent months, I don't want to then let them down. Like, letting people down is something that really hurts me. Like, it makes me feel quite sick that I would let people down. So I think that makes it really hard for me to move forward. I'm not making excuses, that's just how I am.
Rent to rent's not for everybody, you know, it definitely isn't. And I think a lot of people rush into rent to rent feeling like it's this like quick, fast, get rich quick scheme thing. I don't know really how to explain it, but I think what most people forget is that the second you've got a HMO, you're managing 5, 6, 7, 8 tenants. The second you've got 10 of those, you're managing like 50, 60, 70, 80 tenants. Managing 50 tenants is a full-time job. It is there's a lot of work that goes into that. Unless your systems are slick from the beginning, which most of them won't be because you're starting from scratch. Rent to rent's amazing, and I'll always have space in my heart for rent to rent. I'll probably do it. You know, I still take rent to rents now, but I don't touch them. We acquire them, and they just get handed over to the team, and I don't really do anything after that. Mainly because I'm not allowed to talk to tenants because they generally leave when I speak to them.
Why is that, Sarah? Why is that?
Crazy. Like for example, we had like a tenant that's rung me at like 3 a.m. once because they'd run out of Hoover bags. They were like, "You need to bring me more Hoover bags." I'm like, "Order your own Hoover bags. You're a grown up." Like.
And then you swore at them, didn't you?
No, I didn't swear at them. But honestly, like, you're an adult. Buy your own Hoover bags. I can't cope with that. I just think grow up. So yeah, we have a lettings manager, and she's amazing. She does an amazing job. And then my buy-to-let portfolio that I have basically, because I do a lot of work with like the homeless charities and things like that. They generally manage their tenants, so I don't really have much to do with tenants.
I don't really want to manage properties. Anything I do, I know that I don't want to do that bit.
Yeah, and if you don't want to be running basically a glorified letting agency, then rent to rent HMO is probably not the right move.
That's not good. Can I ask about your investors? Do you find that most of them, like, what's the percentage on reoccurring investors and ones that are just one time only?
I actually don't know the stats on that, in truth. I've got a big list of investors, but I think there's like 67,000 on the list or something like ridiculous. Not all of them will be live. A lot of them will have been from like 5 years ago and we've not done business with them, but they're still on there because the database captures them. But in terms of like, I'm trying to think. Because sometimes people only want like 3 or 4 rent to rents to give them a certain cash flow point. That cash flow then gives them their time back, and then they can concentrate on sourcing their own deals. And so they then don't need me anymore because we've kind of set them up. So I actually don't know the answer to that. I've not tracked it. We've had some repeat, and we've had some. Obviously, we get a lot brand new, but we've had quite a few repeat clients, rent to rent especially.
With your rent to rents though, if you've got your own management company for rent to rents, how do you know which ones you want to sell on and which ones you want to keep? What's the difference?
Anything outside of an hour radius of where we're based, I sell.
Yeah. Not of your management company, or they?
Well, we're in the same place.
Okay. Yeah. And how did you pick your place?
Where I lived.
That's where you lived, but you don't live the same place now, do you?
No, so I live like 15 minutes up the road, so it's not that far. I lived in Milton Keynes, and then Milton Keynes is Article 4 as well, so it's like hard to create new HMOs. So we've managed existing HMOs. We've got stuff on the outskirts of Milton Keynes, and then we've got like Bedford, Aylesbury, Northampton that surrounds Milton Keynes, and actually those areas were spot on for us as well. My single buy-to-let portfolio is across Milton Keynes and Northampton. Like, I like Northampton because you can get loads for your money in Northampton. Compared to Milton Keynes is astronomical compared to Northampton. The last house I bought in Northampton was a 3-bed terrace, and it was 102,000. The last house, so I've got a flat in Milton Keynes. It's a 1-bedroom flat, and we paid 120 for that. So Northampton, you just get loads more for your money. So I like it over here.
Yeah, less money in, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the investor, obviously you could have investor money which you could borrow and use for yourself. I know that you do that as well. Do you prefer that over sourcing to sell, or you don't mind either way?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started the company, I think what you have to remember is, what's your objective as a business owner? So for me, when I started the business, I needed to clear my debt. So I don't know if people who watch in your group or whatever will know this, but I started my property business because I was broke. In 2015, I was in about £60,000 worth of debt, credit cards, loans, that sort of stuff. It was just not a really happy time for me. I was like lost. And so I started my property business really because I needed an urgent fix to that. And actually deal packaging, where I could charge 3, 4, 5 grand for a rent to rent deal, I was able to clear my debt. And so for me, deal packaging for a fee was my only focus, because I just wanted to get rid of this 60 grand as quickly as possible. Once that was gone, it took me 23 months to do that. So it was like the second Christmas after. Then the pressure was off a little bit more, and I was like, right, okay, the money going in the bank's mine now. What do I want to do with it? We bought, we've got some buy-to-lets, and we started to look at stuff like that. And we're like, okay, what else are we going to do? I've got cash flow in rent-to-rent business. I've got a deal packaging company that pays me fees. I've got a buy-to-let portfolio now that is my assets, that's building my legacy, if you like. What are we going to do? And that's when I started looking into doing my own projects and staying in the deals and things like that. And that was then a choice of, do we joint venture with investors where we bring the deal and they bring the money and we split it, or do we borrow money and do the projects ourselves? And whilst I do package up for a fee still now, if I don't want it, most of the time now I'm like, I'd rather keep it and do a project. I still do it, but if you can, I don't need the lumpy money out now immediately, whereas before I wanted my 5 grand and I wanted it today, whereas now I'm happy to wait 6 months to get what might be, my investors were paying 5 grand for 60 grand in profit. Well, now I want the 60 rather than the 5.
You just mentioned about how you were flat out broke, and that's why you were like, no, I really need to do this. That must have been such a scary place to be in, for one. Really scary.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be really honest about it. I wasn't homeless. We were coping just about. We were behind on a few things, and the interest on our credit cards was high, and it was a lot of pressure. And I think for me, because I was running my own company, I left my job in 2012 to start my first company. And my company not doing well was the biggest problem, because my husband still had his job. And what happened was I didn't know how to run a company, basically. Had never heard of a mentor. I never knew that it was okay to ask for help. I'd kind of grown up in the corporate world where you just had to get on with it. I was in recruitment, and if you asked for help, it was just like a sign of weakness. You just didn't do that. And so for me, I was running this company, and it was great right at the beginning. From 2012 to 2013, it went really, really well. And then just 14 into 15, the market changed. And because I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't realise that you needed to budget for marketing and budget for reinvesting and budget for repairs and all your materials, all your stuff. I just didn't know. So what was happening was I was taking a fee from a client, and I was using that fee to pay my mortgage, but I needed supplies to deliver the service. It just was a mess. So I then had to, it's my front door. I'm really sorry, 2 seconds.
It's all right.
2 seconds. My dog goes mad at the postman. Sorry, it's at Amazon. So at the end of, by the time kind of 2014 happened, I was just starting to get behind on stuff, and it was all just a bit much. And by the time 2015 came, I got married in 2015 as well. And we just it just got to a point where I was I worked so hard, and we both worked hard, and I just felt like I had nothing to show for my life. And at the end of 2014, I'd left a job to work for myself. I think it's the end of 2014, into 2015, I then had to suck it up and go back to having a job. And honestly, I was destroyed by that, because, you guys will understand, we all fight to be able to give up work and sack the boss, and that you assume that will be you forever. The fact that I had to accept that I'd not done it very well and go back and be employed, like broke, like it really was a really horrible time for me.
I bet you got a few nasty comments as well from other people, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is that most of this happened very much under the radar because I was really embarrassed about it. I didn't really tell anybody. It's actually like my mum and people like that only found out to the extreme of what it was like the first time I ever stood on a stage and said it out loud. I'd never really told anyone about it, and they were like, "What? You looked like you were doing really well." I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't. I was really struggling." And you know, my husband was very, very supportive, and you know, we always were okay. It's not like we were homeless, and it's not like a sob story so much. It's just it was hard for me, and there was like this trigger that just went, you know what? I'm just not gonna keep living a life that is like this. And so I just gave it everything I had, and actually it worked.
You talk a lot in your training about different books and different things that you've read about like money management and stuff. Have you read all those since then, and do you make an effort to read those now, or had you read them before but you didn't really take what they said seriously?
No, so like 2014 I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I actually said I didn't read it actually. I got it on YouTube, the audio version on YouTube, and I played it in my car. I got stuck in a traffic jam one day on the way back from Gatwick Airport, and I was in traffic for 8 hours, and I listened to the whole thing.
Wow, that's a long traffic.
Yeah, I'd been to a meeting at Gatwick Airport. So at the time I was working as a consultant. I had to go back to my job, not to recruitment, but I'd gone back to working for another company. And I had a sales meeting at Gatwick Airport, and I went, and the day before my boss had told me that I wasn't credible enough as a businesswoman to win Gatwick Airport as a client, and that I'd probably never be successful in my job. And I took it really personally for a long time, actually, I have to say. I wish I could meet him now, let me tell you. I wish I could like have a coffee with him, but anyway. And on the way back from Gatwick Airport, someone had sent me a link to the Think and Grow Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I just put it on in my car, connected it up to my audio. And I was driving a van, actually. It weren't even my car. I was driving a van at the time because I was using it for the company.
That's like pink van.
No, it was the black van. So the pink van was before the black van, but we had a pink T4 and then we changed that for a Berlingo. But yeah, it was a black Berlingo van. And I just listened to it in this traffic jam, and I thought, I'm doing it all wrong. I'm just doing it all wrong. So yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad's a really good book. Think and Grow Rich is a good book by Napoleon Hill, which is all about like how the super wealthy think and what they do, what their like tips and things are. He studied the super wealthy for a really long time and put the book together. And then things like The Compound Effect, You're a Badass, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, Eat That Frog. These are all books that I've read and I've reread. The concepts of them just are so simple, but they actually really do make a difference to the way that you can operate as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. Yeah, I think everyone should read them.
I also, well, I don't read hardly ever, but I do listen to audiobooks in my commute. It takes me an hour and 15 minutes to get to work, so that's quite a lot every day. Yeah. And I've been trying, you know, that I'm trying to set up a school, like a property school for kids, and recently I've had to cover so many teachers because so many people are off because of COVID related things, that I started, we were talking about leadership, and then that turned into what is success, and they were like, it's when you got bare money in it. So then we were talking about having lots of money, and then I ended up talking about property and drawing all these figures on the whiteboard, and then we went on Rightmove and we were looking for houses, and they were being totally unrealistic about where they were going to live and their nice glam house. But then one student was like, hang on, if we buy this house that's a wreck, we're going to need money for a refurb too, not just the deposit. And I was like, yes, that is true. How much do you think it's going to be to refurb a house? So we were getting some really good kind of conversations, and I was actually quite impressed with the young people that even though at the beginning of the lesson they didn't have a clue, they were taking on board what I was saying. Do you feel like you got any kind of financial education at all when you were at school?
From school? No, definitely not.
Did you like school? Did you hate school?
So
I'm embarrassed. You're going to tell an embarrassing story.
So in middle school, I was really good. I was really well behaved. And then from middle school, I went to a girls' school, and all my friends went to a grammar school. And I went to the girls' school because I always like to do things differently, because that's just me and how I'm built, I think. But also because it was actually better from an education perspective. It was better for me, and my mum wanted me to go there, and so on. But when I got there, I joined in year 8. But because it was a private girls' school, they'd all joined secondary school in year 7. And so they were all like a year into their friendship groups. So in year 8, when I joined the girls' school, I got really bullied for a year, and I hated it. Like, I really hated it. I didn't know who I was. I really didn't feel like, my memories of that period of my life were horrendous. And like, I mean, I know the girl's name. I can see her face. Like, I know who she. If I ever saw her again, I know exactly who she is. She was horrible to me, and so I asked my mum if I could go to the grammar school that all my friends from my middle school had gone to. So in year 9, I moved schools again. And in year 9, my parents separated, and my dad's a bit of a knobhead. And so I became a really angry teenager. Like, there's no real secret to it. And so I became really naughty. I'm one of these people that's actually very naturally blessed when it comes to things like school. I could look at something once and I'd know it, and so I didn't need to concentrate, and I could still get really good grades. I was one of those annoying kids. I just retained information really well, and so that they let me sit at the back of the class, and they let me just get away with murder all the time. So actually at school, I didn't really do myself any favours. They all thought I was going to fail all my exams, and I mean, I didn't fail my exams. I got like B's and C's, but I was predicted U's across the board almost, and I got B's and C's. And I remember my French teacher, she told me I would never amount to anything, was her actual words to me. And I felt like my teachers didn't understand that there was stuff going on in my world. It was just I was unhappy as a teenager. I had one teacher, her name was Mrs. Coulter, and she was a tiny little lady. She's like, must have only been about 4.5 feet tall, this lady. She was amazing, but she always knew how to get me engaged in my class. And so I always remember her because she was the one teacher that I had. She was my chemistry teacher, and she really just made the effort to bring me out of what was me being angry into me wanting to contribute something positive to a community, a room full of people. So I always remember her. But in terms of like financial education, not at all. But my grandparents, my granddad and my nan, they had businesses, and they bought. So when I was quite young, like really young, like in a playpen, like baby young. They bought a house like in a field, like a barn in a field, and they converted it into a house. And so I watched them take houses and renovate them and turn them into what they were from when I was a baby. And then they had businesses, so they owned an auction at one point, and they did all sorts of other things. So my understanding what property can do, I didn't really know what I was watching, but now I'm an adult, I think that's where my like interest in it kind of started. But everyone in my family is like in business. So my mum works for herself. My dad works for himself, but not in a great way. My auntie works for herself. My great auntie works for herself. My nan and granddad worked for themselves. Like, I've been surrounded by that. And so I've never felt like I couldn't just get on with it. I knew I always wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know what to do. That was all.
So that's interesting though, that you said that you weren't really sure how to like run business as a business, even though your whole family are in business. Did none of like, is it because you didn't like to ask for help? Because if you had, they might have just said, oh, you need to do it like this.
Yeah, and I think as well, like I've always grown up thinking, and I don't think this is what my family have impressed upon me, because actually they're always very much like, ask for help, like you can't do everything yourself, don't overwhelm yourself. But I don't know, I'm not sure at what point in my life it happened, but I'm like fiercely independent. And I don't know if that's because of some of the stuff that happened to me as a kid, as a teenager. I felt like it was kind of, I was on my own at times, and I feel like maybe that's pushed through into adulthood, where I feel like I just have to be able to deliver for myself, and I have to be able to turn up for myself. And so actually I'm very thankful for the things that happened to me in my younger years, because they actually helped carve out the businesswoman that I am today. But yeah, I probably should have asked for help a lot more than I ever did. I think, in my first company especially.
So because you're so independent, I bet you try and do all the different jobs yourself, or at least I know that you did probably at the beginning, whereas now you've got a bigger team, and you recently took on quite a few new people, didn't you?
Yeah, I still do it now though, and I get told off all the time. They say, Sarah, like you've worked like 70 hours this week and that's not your job. Let us do our job. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I don't like, I've got an assistant now. Her actual job is to assist me with things like book appointments, like make sure I'm in the right place at the right time, edit my slides. Like that's her actual job. But I find it really weird to ask somebody else to do things for me. I'm like, oh, is it all right if you, and then she's like, yeah, that's my actual job. That's what you pay me to do. So don't be weird about it. But I do find it quite unsettling to relinquish control of things. But I want an empire, and I don't just want a little business. That's not what I want. I want to contribute massively to our planet, to the people that are on it. I really want to do something big. I'm never going to be able to do that unless I start to be more comfortable with the fact that other people are better at stuff than I am.
Yeah, we're all good at different things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What about, so obviously you want to do much bigger things than you're already doing, and you're already doing so much, and you've got so many different avenues of money coming in, which is amazing to be able to have done that after 5 years. So how will you know when you've reached the success? Like, what is that top goal, or is it a top secret?
No, so like we've got an underlying goal, which is 250 homes in 10 years. That's, I actually set that goal like 3 years in. So we're 2 years into 10 years, is to contribute 250 homes to the country, maybe the world, who knows, but mostly the UK in 10 years. So I've got 8 years left of that. And I kind of capture everything that we do in that. So whether it's housing homeless people, whether it's creating HMO and housing people that would, I don't know, students, or whether it's like renovating a house and creating a family home, or whatever it is, the underlying kind of ambition, whether, if we're packaging and deal packaging for other people, we're creating a home sort of separated from us, but we still help to create that home. And so, yeah, the target is to do 250 homes in 10 years. That's very measurable. So like I can measure that. We know where we are with that. In terms of how will I know when I've reached success, in all truth, Shona, actually, I am comfortable saying out loud now, I wasn't for a long time, but I am successful. And if I never became any more successful than I am today, I'd still be really proud of what I've achieved. But I believe that I've got more to contribute to the world, and I think I've got more people's lives to contribute to. And I feel like I've worked out what I'm here for. And so the more people I can help to change, I guess for me, I've seen myself come on this weird and wonderful little journey from feeling like I felt then to feeling like I feel now. If I can help one person to feel even remotely like I feel now, from a place of what was quite sad and lonely, then I will have done my job. And so I'd like to do that on a bigger scale. But honestly, I feel there's things in my life that I want to do that will tell me that I've been successful. Like I'd like to buy my mum a house, and I'd like to take my nan to China. And one of the things I wanted to do was take my mum to New York for her birthday. I did that a couple of years ago. I'd like to be mortgage free on my house so that I know that I've always got somewhere to live. Like there's those like bucket list things that are my kind of like milestone markers to know that I'm doing all right, and keep doing what you're doing.
Like you said, like to buy your mum a house and to pay off your mortgage. I guess thinking of you as like somebody that's in property, I'm like, well, you haven't done those things yet? You didn't do those things already? Are those things, they must just be much harder. When you're doing them for your business, it's very different for doing them for your personal life, right?
Yeah, so like buy my mum a house. Obviously, if my mum would like live in the north, I could buy her a house tomorrow.
Yeah.
Our life is in Milton Keynes, and she wants to live here where we all are. And so actually being able to be in a financial position where I've got a spare, because buying a house that will cash flow for me is investing money that will come back to me. But buying a house for someone to live in where they don't pay any rent, where you're paying 2 mortgages, so the mortgage on the house you live in and the mortgage on that house, it's a really different thing. You know, I don't make any secret about the fact that I'm not a multi-millionaire yet. You know, I'm still in the trenches, building my business, working. I've got over £1 million worth of assets, yes, but a lot of them are mortgaged. And so really the bank owns them, not me. And paying down my mortgage on my own house, I just moved into my dream house. I won't lie. We went with the lowest deposit we could, and we got the biggest mortgage that we could because it allowed us to move in. And so, yeah, I only moved in February. I'm certainly not mortgage free on it. I'd love to be mortgage free by the time I'm 40 on the house I live in. That's kind of there's like milestone markers for the next that I've got in my life. Mortgage free on my own home by the time I'm 40 is something I wrote down about 3 years ago.
A lot of people, trainers, they say like, oh, you shouldn't own your own home because it's not, even Rich Dad Poor Dad would say that, right? What's wrong?
I don't agree with it.
I don't agree with it either. That's why I just wanted to have that conversation with you. I don't agree with it either. Like, I want to own my home and know that if I lose my job or if I quit my job or whatever, yes, I still got to cover the bills. I still got to feed everybody. But the roof will be there.
I think that the point that some people say and some trainers will say is that if you've got money sitting in, let's say you own a £400,000 house and you put a 25% deposit in, right? And you live there and it's not generating a cash flow, it's a liability, it's not an asset. And that's true, right? If it's coming out of your pocket, then it's a liability, not an asset. But I just bought another asset that pays for my mortgage on this and my mortgage on that. And so actually it's not coming out of my pocket. It's paid for by my business and the income that I make from that. And so I'm comfortable with that. But what they're effectively saying is if you put £100,000 deposit on a house that's not going to generate cash flow, putting £100,000 across a portfolio that will generate cash flow is going to give you financial freedom before a liability will. And that's true. But we are property investors. Paying rent is dead money. We know this. It's why we as investors make money.
Exactly.
Because what I don't understand the concept of wanting to be a renter, but you're a property investor. It doesn't make sense to me. And I know people would disagree with me on this, but
paying somebody else's mortgage. That's the whole point, that we want to do it the other way around.
Yeah, exactly that. And I just think it's a way of releasing cash. And I think any trainers that are telling people to sell their houses to invest in training so they can learn to do property, which I've seen, cheese and rice, honestly, it's just not good.
I feel like you probably have a million other things to do because you work so many hours a week. So
I'm happy chatting to you. I've got nothing else. What time is it? I've got a call at 6:30, so in 15 minutes.
You're going to want to get a cup of tea. All right, we'll talk for about another 5 minutes. I don't want to take the mick out of you.
As long as you want.
Cool. Let me think of another question. I just blew it then. I was like, what was I going to say?
I've got nothing else to say, actually, Sarah.
Who's you meeting with? Are you allowed to tell us?
I've got a one-to-one client. So I do like a one-to-one accountability where you get like an hour's call with me once a week. And I have got my check-in with one of my clients, 6:30.
Cool, nice. When is your next challenge?
Last week of January. So I'm very excited about that. We've shifted it a little bit this time, which is cool. So it's the very last week of January, the Monday to the Friday, over like the last weekend. So yeah, if anyone wants to join, you can share the link. I'll get the link to you once I've got it. It'll be out in the next couple of days, actually.
I get it. I get the link. I get it through a text, through an email.
Yeah, so ultimately, what you'll see from the middle of January is just my face all over the internet, everywhere you go.
Everyone in my group will understand that there's a reason for that. It's you just showing them how to do it, right?
This is it.
Let's talk about. I know that you have a few Facebook groups, but one of them was purposely built to get your investors in there. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've actually rebranded them today. Interestingly, the names have changed.
I didn't know that, but go on.
Yeah. Well, good plug. So I've got a group that's called All About the Business of Property, which is my original group. There's about 6,500 people in there. And that was actually set up for me to document my journey, similar to how you and why you've set up your group. It was a way for me to be held accountable to myself, because if I said it out loud, I'm going to do it. That's just the way that I'm built. If I don't say it out loud, then I let myself off the hook, because it's only me that I'm letting down. And actually I put myself at the very bottom of importance. That's just naturally where I do it, which is not good, but it is. So the group was for that. What it actually created was a platform for me to build my investor list from. And then I have another group as well, which is property investments and property. Oh, what is it? Because I changed it today. I don't know where my phone is to check it.
I don't even know the names. I know what it looks like. One of them's like brown with a coffee mug.
Well, it isn't now, because I've literally changed all the branding on it today.
Isn't branding important? Nobody's going to recognise it.
No, that's fine. It's still, all the SEO and all the keywords still work. So property deals and property investing discussion UK is the other one. And basically we've got a load of content rolling out next year. We've got some really cool stuff coming. And so we've just rebranded them, a bit of a refresh for the end of 2020. I think everybody needs a refresh at the end of 2020. And so, yeah, we've just had a bit of an upgrade.
When you rebrand like that, is it usually because it's your idea, or have you got people around you that are like on the marketing bit and they're like, we need to do this?
It's usually me, because I am marketing and sales. So it's usually me, and I just do it, and then I've done it, and then I think, shit, I haven't told anyone that I'm going to do it. But this time I've done it right, and I told everybody, they're all prepared, it's all done. And I also didn't design all my own rebrands this time. So that was done by my team, and it's all just been switched on today. So yeah, I've done it as I'm supposed to this time.
That's good. And yeah, because you said you normally do that stuff yourself, was it really scary that you had to let somebody else do that?
Yes.
But you did it. Well done.
Yeah, I feel like I need a sticker.
Yeah. It's just
I feel very grown up, having just like let someone else do their job.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I realised actually by starting my own business, which isn't really generating money, but I'm not giving up. I'm still working on it. That where obviously I work in a school and I'm a manager, I have loads of people that I delegate jobs to. When you're start your own business, you are everybody. So you have to know how to do a million things, or pay other people to do them, but not as a permanent member of staff, just the hourly rate to get things done or something like that.
I definitely learn a lot of things I didn't know because of that. And I just had to sit and figure it out, because I couldn't afford to pay someone to build a website for me. So I built my own website. I couldn't afford for people to like set up my ClickFunnels, landing pages and stuff. So I did it myself, and now I know how to do it. My dog's just come to visit. Now I know how to do it. It's hard for me to then, like, I don't want to wait 3 days for someone to build me a funnel when I know it takes 30 seconds to just click that button and click that button. But I also understand that I can't have everything right this second just because it's what I want, because you have to be a reasonable human being. And so having plans of, this is rolling out, this is like the time we need a 4-week window, all of the things that go with like planning marketing campaigns and stuff like that. That's why I'm developing my own skills as a leader in the business, is to be able to work with my team in the right way, so that it's not knee-jerk and that everything's thought about and everything's working before we go live on stuff. And that's something that I haven't really done all the way through the business, but I'm really pleased that I'm doing it now.
Is there I don't know if you want to answer that. Do you feel like there's any gaps in your business at the moment for like things that you feel like you could get somebody else to do something like that?
Yeah, every day I think, oh my God, we could do something for this, or there must be a piece of tech that could fix this problem. Like today we've had a bit of but we've had to have like a person manually enter data from data that's captured here into our CRM system, because the tool we're using doesn't speak to the other tool that we're using. And so that's been a bit of I don't want to pay a human being to populate a spreadsheet when that should be like, you shouldn't be paying for stuff like that. It doesn't cost anything. And so today I've researched and found the tool that we want to use, and we fixed it. It's done. So now, whilst the person the VA we've been paying, who lives in the Philippines somewhere, has now not got a job, we're able to use her in a different way in the business, and we can use her to do like Canva stuff, which we do need physically someone to do. So we can just give her a better job. Data entry is boring, so we've automated it. And so every day I think to myself, there must be a better way. And what I love about my team is that they all know they've got the authority to tell me that Sarah, your way that you're suggesting is not the right way. We want to do it this way. I love that about them, that they're all confident enough, and they have like the openness to be able to tell me, Sarah, you're not doing that right.
That's good.
Better.
I already know this story, but do you want to tell everybody about, there was a time that you went away and then when you came back, you weren't very happy with your team? Sorry.
Yes, I can tell this story. So last September, so September 2019, we ran the Cogito Wealth Business Retreat. And the retreat is basically where we take 12 property entrepreneurs, property companies, business partnerships or individuals, and we take you to Ibiza and we work on your business for a week with you. Obviously there's some fun Ibiza type stuff that happens in there as well, but the main aim of it is that we work on your business, strategic planning for the following year, and also like resource planning, operational planning, all of this sort of stuff. When you are on a retreat, have you ever been on a retreat?
No.
So the reason why retreats work really well is it gets you out of the day-to-day of your life. And it actually makes your brain fire differently because you are in a different environment. So retreats work really well, but that's neither here nor there. So we went to the retreat. There was myself, there was 2 like guest speakers with me. My assistant was with me, and then we had all of our clients that came with me. My husband came, and the trainers, like partners, also came. So there was like a team of us, and then like 12 companies, but that was like 18 clients, if that makes sense. We spent a week in Ibiza. It was brilliant. My assistant, unfortunately, while she was in Ibiza, forgot where she was, I think, and drank too much during one night and behaved like an idiot. And so when we got home, I unfortunately had to fire her. But what also happened when we got back was, for whatever reason, like I track all my activity and all my billings and stuff very visibly on the board in our offices. So I know like what's in the pipeline, what should be happening, what should be happening. I can forecast my months really well because I'm tight on my numbers. Well, I went away and it was there was this information on the board, and when I came back like 10 days later, the same numbers were on the board. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So I pulled all the call logs down to see what the team had been doing while I was away. And basically they'd been coming in at 10 and going home at 2, and they'd just done no work while I've been away. And you know, I'm a good boss. I'm really flexible. I don't care if you're 10 minutes late. I actually don't. As long as you do your job and you hit your targets, then I'm super cool with that. I don't care if you need a day off to do life admin because you've got to go to the bank and you've got to sit on hold for 3 hours to eat. Look, I don't care about that stuff. I understand we all have real lives that sit around what we're doing. What I don't appreciate is people taking the piss out of me, ultimately. And so, yeah, I fired the whole team on one day. So it went from us having like a full operation to it just going back to being me. And that was September last year. So I spent 3 months like rebuilding the team. We hit reset on everything, like absolutely. I just paused the company, just went like, right, what are we doing? And it allowed me to
but it wasn't we, it was just you.
It was just me, yeah. Yeah. But I say we in every, whether it's me or not, because even me, I still had my family and my friends like holding me together and bringing me dinners at 11 o'clock at night at the office and stuff like that. Like I couldn't have done it all without other people. And yeah, so we then had, so Emma started working with me like in the January. And so it was Emma and I for most of this year. Chris Taylor started working with me like the February, March time. And then we just kind of grew it from there. And now this year has been, it's been really difficult in some ways, but it's been completely amazing in other ways. And so, yeah, I'm actually very grateful that we've done what we've done this year. It's been amazing.
And I know that, because I thought you'd started training things this year, but you've done training things before, haven't you? They're just different. And yeah. Was it your new team that built the way that you have your training company now? Or was all of that already in the pipeline? It's just you have to get your new team in to get it up and running. Yeah,
so we call it old Cogito and new Cogito. So new Cogito started in March 2020 when COVID happened. Because
That's me.
So new Cogito was born out of coronavirus because we were an events company before that. We were doing everything offline in a room. We were doing, and actually, whilst I love public speaking, what I didn't particularly enjoy was like planning and running events, because people are quite unreliable actually when they've got to be places, and they're very expensive to run and things like that. Whereas so when COVID happened, I said to all of our existing clients, we're not doing any more events until at least March 2021. Like we just said it will just be a year and we'll just leave it like that. Then we knew what we were doing. And then the 5-day challenge, I was laying in the garden in April, in the sun, drinking a Corona, like working out what I wanted to do next, like what we were going to do. Because we'd spent like a month sorting out the property stuff, making sure that all our tenants were safe, all our staff were safe, everything was working okay. And I was like, right, what am I going to do with Cogito? Like, what's the plan? And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a 5-day challenge and just see if anyone even joins it. And they did. And then you guys joined the Strategy Hub, and the Strategy Hub was born that week. And so, yeah, New Cogito literally was born because of COVID.
It worked well, though. Do you think that, well, I'm not saying it was good for you, because Corona isn't good for anybody, but do you think it gave you a bit of a boost to do something a bit different?
Yeah, I have to say, I feel really grateful that my hand was forced, because prior to that, I've been talking about like online for a long time. I never really got around to it, and we were doing what worked, and it worked, so why change it? But it basically, we just got like red buttoned overnight, and we went from a business that was turning over quite a lot of money every month from an events company to turning over nothing. You have to, as a business owner, you have to lead your team and your business and your clients through that forest. And so I just thought, practically, what is the simplest thing we can do to make sure that we're still helping people, that the business can still sustain itself? We're still billing, obviously, because that's the lifeblood of what we do. How do we do that? And so that's where the 5-day challenge came from, because the gap for most people is they don't want to get a deal because they're frightened of what to do next. And so for me, it wasn't about teaching people how to get deals. It was about teaching people how to work with investors using social media, because it's free. In 2020, when people have been trying not to spend money for no reason, it actually just made sense. And so, yeah, we launched it in April, and it's worked really well.
It has worked very well. You need to go.
I do.
You do. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate that. And you were with me much longer than I expected. Again, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you later. Bye.